Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Welcome to today's reading from Sri Damodara Janani, Lord Damodar's mother, by His Holiness Sri Sivarama Swami. We are going to be reading from chapter 11, Nanda Maharaj releases Krishna. Mukam karoti vachalam pangum langhate girim yat kripatamam vande Shri Gurum Dina Tarinam Parmananda Madhavam Shri Chaitanya Ishwaram Hariyom Tatsam. That's it. Ullukhalam Vikarashantam Damana Baddham Swam Atmajam Vilokya Nandaha Prasad Vadano Vimumochaha. When Nanda Maharaj saw his own son bound with ropes to the wooden mortar and dragging it, he smiled and released Krishna from his bonds. This is from Srimad Bhagavatam, 10th Canto, chapter 11, verse 6. So this chapter is based on 6th verse of the 11th chapter of Canto 10 of Srimad Bhagavatam. With the two demigods gone, Krishna was now free to resume his role as a cowherd boy. Still finding the game of pulling the mortar a novelty, Krishna repeatedly drew it to him and then kicked it away, laughing as it rolled back as far as the rope would allow. Such fun was too good to enjoy alone, and Krishna longed for his friends. Standing up to better see over the fallen branches, he caught sight of them in the distance, looking intently at him with questioning eyes, but still immobile. Krishna signaled with his right arm, calling to them, Sri Dama, come and see what happened, let us play here. The moment the Krishna's words reached the Gopas, they were free to move, and since they had been straining at their invisible bonds, some of them tumbled forward with the weight of their own momentum. Rising to their feet, the boys ran to the fallen trees, not sure whether to cheer Krishna or to caution him. Felling these trees would no doubt meet with reprisal from Mother Yashoda and maybe even the more lenient Nanda Maharaj. The boys closed in on Krishna in the way a small swarm of bees descend upon an open pot of honey. As they caught sight of Krishna's joyful face and victorious smile, they called out his name in bliss and made whooping sounds of mirth. Wading in amongst the branches, Sri Dama embraced Krishna, while some of the boys balanced along the trunks of the trees, saying, look at me. Finally, they gathered around and embraced Krishna, caressing his limbs to see that no harm had befallen him. I'm unharmed, you are safe now, we are here to protect you. But wait until your mother sees your latest antics and you think the mortar punishment was bad. She will tie you to these trees and make you stay here overnight, wild dogs and all. The boys laughed at the prospect of Krishna being further confined to a large immovable object. Krishna crossed his arms and pouted in defiance. I can pull mountains if I want. That just fueled the boys' laughter. Oh, that is rich. He is going to move a mountain. Krishna raised his voice. Not only will I move it, but I will lift it. You wait and see. Some boys continued with their hilarity, but some older Gopas became concerned. Would Krishna, of mystical ways, try something rash and get them all in serious trouble? Sri Dama spoke over the din. Very well, we will wait until that time you lift a mountain. But now tell us, who were those two beings you were talking to? Krishna replied, they were spirits living in the trees. Where did they go? Krishna downplayed his role in toppling the trees. The boys could never hold a secret, and they would make him the certain object of his mother's anger. The term of their curse expired, and so they broke out of their tree forms and toppled them. Then they returned to their homes. The spirits did not topple the trees. You did. We saw you pull them down with the mortar, saw it with our own eyes, and then those beings came out and chatted with you. What did they say? This line of interrogation was not what Krishna had in mind. He wanted to play. Pushing the mortar with his foot, he changed the subject, saying, watch this, and the mortar rolled away and then rolled back when he pulled on the rope. It is fun. Enticed by a new game, the boys crowded around. Let me try, but they could not budge the mortar. Only Krishna could. As Krishna and the boys were playing, the Brajavasis regained their senses one by one. The crack of the Arjuna trees still resounding in their ears, they stood to their feet, trying to clear their heads of the deafening sound. Indeed, that sound had not only deafened the villagers but the 4 elephants controlling the directions of heaven. The Vrajavasis looked around to see what could have caused such a terrible vibration. Their immediate thought was to look to the sky. It may have been the rumbling of clouds, but the sky was clear. They wondered if it were perhaps some extraordinary lightning like Indra's lightning bolt striking the earth, but without any clouds it was unlikely. Unable to discern the cause of the disturbance, the Vrajavasis became fearful and wondered whether some demons had entered their land. Standing together in close-knit groups for comfort, they looked here and there with restless eyes. Had the ghost of Putana or Ravath returned for revenge? While Gokul village was in the state of confusion, some gopis visiting from nearby Raval came across Krishna and his friends playing among the fallen trees. Taking in the scene before them, they concluded that the falling trees had caused the thunderclap. Without asking the boys and conjecturing that it was the work of a demon, they immediately rushed uphill to inform Mother Yashoda. Their faces pale in fear for Krishna's welfare, the ladies spoke to Yashoda in a panic. "O Queen, the 2 trees that always fulfilled our desires have fallen on your son. Like a tied calf, Damodar is standing between the 2 trees laughing. Come with us and rescue your son from the jaws of death." Braja's queen had just risen from a swoon induced by the breaking trees. Hearing the words, "trees have fallen on Krishna," she was beside herself with anxiety and fainted once again. The other village ladies tried frantically to rouse her, but Yashoda could not be wakened in her faint. Yashoda was already running towards Krishna to rescue him. Why would she respond to the calls in her ear? While some women were trying to revive Mother Yashoda, the cowherd men gathered around Nanda Maharaj. Having received news of the falling trees and seeing that the crowns of the Arjuna trees were no longer visible, the men proceeded downhill, followed by their wives. As Nanda Maharaj led his court to the Arjuna trees, other villagers cautiously came out of their homes, frantic with worry at the gossip that demons had again attacked Krishna. The Vrajvasis had been relishing the sweet bliss of the Deepavali festival, greatly enhanced by the story of Yashoda binding Krishna, but the sweetness quickly transformed into bitterness with the news of calamity befalling him. Abandoning their duties, they rushed to the Yamuna. Even from a distance, the Vrajavasis could see a gap where the Arjun trees once stood. As they hurried towards that place, their footsteps and voices mixed into a rolling thunderclap of its own. The men put forward different speculations as to what might have happened, fueling each other's anxiety of love. At the first sign of the fallen trees of Vrajavasi stopped. Still at a distance, the men spread out to examine the scene for themselves, their wives and daughters peeping warily over their shoulders. Indeed, the trees have fallen. Are there any demons about? None that we can see. Where there does not appear to be anyone around. Is that good or bad? In this way, the Vrajavasis speculated, sometimes moving forward a few steps, sometimes stopping. When a branch on the trees moved, the Gopas held a variety of makeshift weapons like sticks for herding cows, chaining rods, and garden soldiers stood at the ready with spears, so ramifications of his deforesting of Braja. One boy said, "All of Vrindavan is coming our way." "Oh, this is really serious, Krishna. You are really in trouble now." "What do you mean I'm in trouble? I thought we were a team." Being tied to the motor, Krishna had no place to run. The only hope was to hide. He whispered, "Get down and hide under the branches. Maybe they will go elsewhere to look for us." The trees had generous crowns, and it being just after rainy season, those crowns were rich with foliage. Thus the small boys easily remained out of sight of the Vrajvasis. The fear of reprimand combined with excitement at their mischief caused the boys to giggle, laugh, and poke each other. "Shh! Be quiet. They will hear you." Like nestlings settling in for the night, the boys huddled together beneath the branches and leaves. Unlike birds, though, the boys felt an extreme ecstasy in being so near Krishna. Damodara was the condensed form of divine bliss. By pressing in on him, the boys felt such unprecedented joy that they became oblivious to their risky predicament and silently trembled and wept in joy. Some whispered, "Are you cold?" "No." "Are you afraid?" "No, I feel happy." "Yes, me too." But Krishna silenced them. "Be quiet and stay down." And they sat together in anticipatory silence, with Krishna occasionally flicking the rope that tied him, thereby adding comic relief to their plight. Shh! The Vrajvasis were forest dwellers. As such, they were especially fond of trees and had revered the Arjuna trees as something special. Seeing them now uprooted, laying flat like giants fallen from the sky, they felt sorry. These trees were like a temple for us, the outer forms of some truly magnanimous souls, but those magnanimous souls had left for heaven, and all that remained were the silent remnants of their fate. Quickly the Vrajvasis' lament for the trees was overshadowed by the concern for Krishna, whom they could not see anywhere. Some of the boys' parents also voiced concern for their sons. "Where is my Subala, Krishna's life and soul, and where is Vijaya, Krishna's bodyguard?" One of the court bards sought to quell the parents' anxiety by glorifying Krishna. "O best of Gopas and Gopis, just see how Mother Earth offers respect to Krishna Kumara with the arms of these trees. Their broken trunks look like the gaping mouth of the lower planets. Their branches are like the dancing hoods of Lord Ananta, and the trees themselves are like the slain bodies of the Madhu and Ketab demons." Mention of the word demon was bad poetry that did not go down well with the Vrajvasis. Now abreast of the trees, again they stopped to see what could be the cause of this calamity. They found none, neither could they see Krishna nor his friends. Tension increased. Some soldiers looked for signs of extraordinary footprints. Aside from many small footprints and what appeared to be handprints and marks of lower legs, there were none. The culprit did not arrive by foot. When the soldiers reported to Nanda Maharaj, the king scoured the nearby trees and then the sky. Aside from a mixed huddle of birds that included parrots and an owl on a branch nearby, there was nothing. Since the demigods hiding behind the clouds had invoked their power of invisibility, the mystery of the fallen trees only grew. No suspicious creatures nearby his side. One soldier who had noticed and followed the drag marks made by the motor said, "There is a motor on the other side of the trees." The Vrajavasis looked to where Krishna had last rolled the motor. It was barely visible under one tree, yet still effulgent like the hidden moon during daytime. Yet being so far from the tree trunks, there was no indication that it had been the cause of the mishap. One of the women who had seen Krishna being bound whispered, "That is the motor to which the queen had tied her son." The Vrajvasis took heart. The boys could hear the adults talking, and they whispered, "They have seen the motor. We are undone. What should we do now?" But Krishna was not ready to be exposed. "Do not worry. We are not in danger. Just stay down." Expanding his illusory potency, Krishna induced the Vrajvasis to forget the motor and to again speculate on the cause of the Arjuna's fall. Under the influence of divine will, the Vrajvasis again questioned each other. How could these big trees fall? There was no storm, no rain, no wind. There are no elephant tracks to indicate a herd had knocked them down. Completely uprooted, these glorious trees are now dry and dead like clouds without water. Was it some demons or Rakshasas or maybe demigods? Whoever it was, they caused a disaster. And if it was some tribals gathering firewood, where are they now? Although the Vrajvasis had earlier hit on the clue to the fallen trees, the motor, because of divine bewilderment, had failed to follow up on their lead. In their continued state of confusion, the Vrajvasis' anxiety for Krishna's safety increased, and with it their feelings of love and desire to be united with him. At that time, Yashoda Devi and her attendants arrived. The villagers made way for their queen, who hurried to her husband's side and frantically asked, "Where is my son? Where is Krishna?" Mother Yashoda's loving ecstasy added to the love of the Vrajvasis, and the combined emotion outweighed the influence of Krishna's Maya. As the balance tipped in the Vrajvasis' favor, Krishna realized that he would not be able to hide any longer. "Where is my blue lotus? What has happened to him?" Taking in the scene with frantic eyes, Yashoda became frenzied, and the Vrajvasis huddled around to calm her. It is said that the force of devotees' pure ecstasy can reach such heights as to neutralize Krishna's divinity. With his mother present, Krishna was unable to remain hidden from the Vrajvasis, his game was up. While the Vrajvasis were momentarily occupied with the queen, Krishna concluded that it was best to be proactive and to reveal himself. He whispered to his friends, "Look, their backs are turned on us. Let us surprise them before they discover us." Without waiting for his friends, Krishna suddenly rose through his leafy cover, calm, fearless, and innocent. Seeing him, his friends too stood up and began to move about, albeit uncertainly. Appearing unassumingly busy, Krishna began to play, pulling on the motor and flicking the rope, while his hesitant friends stood by and watched. Naturally, the Vrajvasis took notice of the Gopas and called out, "Look, there is Krishna, there are our boys." The others turned to see Krishna, free of danger, smiling, priceless jewel ornamenting Mother Earth. Absorbed as always in the joys of play, elated, they all looked at each other and exclaiming, "What happened? What happened?" The Vrajvasis were momentarily stunned. They tried to piece together how Krishna had appeared so suddenly, and they tried to deduce the connection between the motor and fallen trees. It was the only visible culprit. At first, the Vrajvasis could make no connection between the motor and the trees and Krishna. Obviously, he could not be responsible for this upheaval. Even as he played, Krishna struggled to move the heavy motor. They were confused. By playing with the motor, Krishna was also reminding his mother of what had transpired between them earlier, and since he did not call out to her, she understood that he was still cross. Unlike the other Vrajvasis, Yashoda recognized the relationship between Krishna and the motor and the fallen trees. She thought to herself, maybe it was he who pulled them down. All day she had labored against the mystique surrounding him. If he could not be encompassed by unlimited rope, perhaps he could also drag down 2 trees with a motor. But that the case, then it was she who had put him in such danger. Blood rushed to Yashoda's head. What if the trees had fallen on him? She was speechless and immobile. Although she knew there was something supernatural about her son, maternal love simultaneously made her think of him as ordinary and subject to harm. What if they had struck him? She could barely keep from fainting. When her husband and others rushed to Krishna, Yashoda remained where she was. Having put him in mortal danger, she was ashamed to approach him. Diamond beads of perspiration glittered on Yashoda's forehead. Her eyes flooded with tears, and her lips trembled. Surrounded by her curious associates, she stood immobile, fighting to see through her tears. What is happening now? The Vrajvasis waded between or climbed over the 2 trees, negotiating leafy branches with exclamations of joy and wonder. Who has done this astonishing thing? So with this, we will finish our reading for today. We will continue from here onwards tomorrow. Nanda Maharaj releases Krishna. Thank you for joining. Hare Tat Sat. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki Jai.